Humanity wants everybody to think alike, worship the same way, wants to control everybody's mind, thought, the way we eat. And I say, the more different you are, the luckier we are. We should be odd. Our thoughts should be different. And what if there's points where you're wrong, but what if there's points where you're right? And if you take that thought process in that direction, you find the cure for mental illness, cancer, anything.
That is the beautiful Bernadette Torres, who I've been working with in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She is a New Mexican native. Her parents are from Black Lake Taos region, which is a very green, lush area. And she's had a very intimate relationship with plants for her whole life. And now she is a teacher and healer and grandmother, sharing her wisdom with the people that she heals and with her students. She grows a lot of plants in her garden, and she also goes up into the Sandia Mountains near Albuquerque, where there is a lot of medicine growing. She really opened my eyes to how herbs are an incredible tool available to us that, for the most part, haven't been GMO'd yet, and so they have the strongest nutrient value to offer us as medicines, as visionary plants, and also just to incorporate into the foods that we already eat. She also has a really special partnership with a beautiful healer named Ashanika Mino, who's from the central jungle of Peru and works with what he calls sheri, which is sacred tobacco. Together, they do healing sessions that work on the spiritual, emotional, and energetic plane to help people really become their strongest selves and address the roots of the weakness that's taken them away from themselves. A lot of times that's ancestral and inherited, or it's trauma that happened to us in childhood. As you can tell, she's a really special person, and she's already deepened my relationship to plants, and she believes so much in their power to strengthen and wake up people, and her presence does that alone. So here she is, Bernadette Torres. What is the plant world, and what is the relationship between plants and humans?
Well, plants have been here a lot longer than us, and they have been providing and creating space wherever they've been to help heal and strengthen the earth. And then, when humans and animals came into the picture, been feeding us, been nurturing us. And so as humans, as we become more civilized and we start to take over these places of nature and building our buildings, we're finding less and less of this space, of this nurturance. And so it's really important for us to figure out how we can create a balance between building and constructing and keeping this, the things that feed us alive. Because what we're building isn't going to keep us alive.
One of the things I'm so humbled about by plants is that they seem to want to help us despite the fact that we continue to destroy their environments.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. They're really the least judgmental in the species kingdom, I think. Because I think if you create a space for them, they're willing to work with you and teach you. And even if you don't have a knowledgeable person around you that can guide you and show you the way, just having that curiosity and getting a handful of seeds and throwing them into the earth and throwing water on it, at least one of them's going to respond, if we don't give up. What I have found is that in my own garden, things will come up that I don't even plant. I don't control this little jungle in my front yard. I don't control every aspect of it. I try to, because I'm human and because, I have this prejudice in me too. You know, I've had seeds planted into me how to grow things and how to make things look nice. But there is a sense of wildness. There's plants that come up that I'm like, who are you? Where did you come from? And we have to realize that, you know, the birds, there's cats, there's, you know, other animals that come into the garden when I'm not looking, drop their seeds, or it's connected to their fur and they leave it here. And so it's not just me. We're all working together to create an environment that is receptive and wants to work with us. But in the last several years, what I have noticed is the abundance of certain plants. Like this year, it's the mullein. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a lot of wildfires. And so, you know, that creates a lot of lung issues for people. But in particular, this year, I've been able to gather a ton of mullein flower. And I use the mullein flower to help. What I have discovered from working with it is over the years, I've known that you can use it to heal ear infection. What I've learned over the years, beyond that, from the plant itself during meditation, from working with it and people coming to me, I've been guided to give it to them to work in their throat area. So this energy center, and some people call it the throat chakra. So we'll call it, you know, this energy center, the throat chakra. But using the flower, if you soak that in an oil and then you rub it into here for people who have really tight, constricted throats, they're not able to speak. When we use the mullein flower, it helps to open that up. And I've seen myself in particular, but I have seen people around me that are open to trying this. When they work with it, it helps them to be able to express themselves with confidence. Because a lot of us, especially women, we won't speak our minds. We don't speak what's in our heart because we've been told to be quiet. That we don't, you know, that we don't have anything important to say, you know, unless we got educated. We went to, you know, we have this doctorate education, then people are willing to listen to us. But that's the linear world, and that's the patriarch. And what I like to see is women come from their hearts, from the unschooling, you know, beyond that. It's okay that you were able to go into that world and show that world, hey, yeah, I can do this too. That's cool that you did that. But what's important to me is that you stay connected to your heart, or it's very difficult to stay connected to your heart when you go into that world. I know I went that direction for a little while, and I'm not just speaking from observing. I actually went into that world too. I studied engineering, I studied nutrition, and I got my certificate in drug and alcohol abuse counseling. What I found in all of that teaching, all that education, is a disconnect from the heart. And there's a voice that women carry through their hearts. And if they get stuck at cutting off their heart, then their throat gets constricted. And if energetically your throat gets constricted, you can end up with all kinds of diseases in your throat, thyroid issues and everything else. So we want to work with this mullein plant, and my garden is full of those flowers, those stalks. They're not just, usually you get one stalk from the we call it gordo lobo. You get one stalk, but in my garden, they're multiple heads, and then the ones that have single heads, they're fanned out. And some people come over and they tell me, it looks like an ostrich. It looks like some crazy dragon head, you know, because they're huge. They're crazy. But I've been able to collect tons of flowers this year. And what are we working on this year? We have the Me Too movement. We have all these women that are coming out and saying, come on, women, let's stand together. Let's open up our voices. So anybody who needs this oil, I'm going to have a good quantity of it. Maybe not enough. I might need some ally sisters to start collecting the mullein flowers so that we can really just get in some airplanes and squirt it all over America.
Now that's a vision I can get behind.
Yeah.
Well, you touched on something there that I'm curious about and would love to learn more about in your process specifically, which is the education about these plants, because it's not something that you're going to read in a book. It seems like the plants almost teach you.
Yeah,
is that right?
It is. So when I first started following the Western herbalism path, I have several teachers who I studied with, and they're great teachers. I mean, the information that they gave me was top information. I actually was blessed to study with a beautiful, beautiful woman named Teresa Crozier. She was a DOM. Now she's just working, helping people. She does retreats, silent retreats. She still does acupuncture and does silent retreats for people. But her connection to the plants was very intuitive. She was raised by her grandma, and her grandma taught her about gardening and plants. And she grows them. These plants just wrap themselves all around her. And she has an urban setting just like mine. But the plants, they just grow and vibrant. And you walk into her backyard and they capture your attention and they speak to you and you feel nurtured and you feel like you just want to be quiet and you just want to cry. But one of the first lessons that she gave to me, she gave me a card and she said, "What is behind this card?" So it was a blank card on the side. I was looking and she goes, "What's on the back of it?" She said, "Just guess. It could be anything." And, I took some guess like, okay, it's something red. I don't know anything else. I keep getting this vision red. And then on the back side of it, it was a red plant, a red flower or something. And she said, "See, I want you to learn that you have this within you, this intuitive ability." And so that's what her class was about, giving you little lessons every class to use your intuitive part of yourself to learn instead of depending on some outside source. And to this day, I still, go to her for assistance, for help, and I do silent retreat with her. I've already done 3 silent retreats with her, and I'm planning my 4th. So this is very important to me to stay connected through the intuitive, through our heart connection. The book learning that I learned, it comes into play. Sometimes it'll kick in, and then the intuitive part will say, "No, that's not the right plant. This is the right plant for you." And I'll say, "But wait, this one's for the lungs, and you're telling me that I need to work," like I got in this argument one time where somebody came to me because they had bronchitis, and then the intuitive part of me is saying, "No, she needs hawthorn. She needs hawthorn. Have her work with hawthorn." And I'm like, "No, this is her lungs. Why would we work? Hawthorn's for the heart." And that's the linear, the educated part of yourself saying, "This is the right way." And the intuitive part saying, "No, it's her heart." And the more her and I talk, then I find out that she's grieving the loss, of a loved one. And so this is why it's so important for us to start to give credence, belief, go back to, I believe that once upon a time we were connected and we knew these things. And through our DNA, our grandmothers still, their DNA is alive and well within us. And our grandmothers were doing this medicine. So if we meditate, meditation could be as simple as 3 minutes a day. You're just being quiet. You're just observing. You're just listening. And you're trusting what you're seeing. Because a lot of times we'll see things and we get fearful of it at first. We're like, "What is that? That looks like the devil," And so then we don't want to meditate anymore, but go beyond it. And even with pain, I work with pain the same way. Instead of running from it and trying to, feed it, put things on it, take things to make the pain go away, I meet it. I meet it halfway. I say, "Okay, look, you're here. You're trying to teach me something. What is it I need to do?" And it'll show me, change the position of my body. It'll tell me you're not using the right herbs. I want to work with yerba mansa. You're giving me comfrey. I'm not ready for comfrey yet. Let's go back to yerba mansa. There's an infection going on. So just allowing your body to go there and listen to what it's saying. And yes, there is that level that I was educated. I did, get some Western, I read a ton of books. And then one day the plants literally said, "Quit reading the books. Listen to us." And so, people say, "What books do you recommend?" I say, I recommend the plants and people. If you know of a person, you meet a person and they work with the plants, like if you have somebody who knows, has a specialty in a field and they've been doing this for years, work with that person. Because she actually goes into the meadow, into the mountains, and she will take those plants and she'll hold them in her hands and she'll smell them, she'll feel them. And if she's guided to and she understands, she'll eat them. And then she knows what they do from that simple act.
Is the Is the part of ourselves that we think of as intuition, or the part of ourselves that's able to hear those messages that are coming through that are saying, here's what you need?
Mm-hmm.
How do you conceive of that? Is that spirit? Is
Mm-hmm.
that, a plane of communication or consciousness that we share with plants?
Mm-hmm. My understanding, and I want to say, like, right now we're kind of like little kids, children, humanity. We're like kindergarten. And maybe when we evolve and we pass on from this lifetime, then we pass on to, first grade or second grade. And so right now, the words that I'm going to use may not accurately touch on the answer. What I believe is that because we are all part of spirit, we're all connected by the same breath. And that breath was breathed into us so that we could live and be part of this human beehive, And so we are all connected by spirit. But as humans that suffer from PTSD, we don't breathe. We hold our breath. We're in constant holding our breath. So we're not even recognizing, we're not even acknowledging that I need this breath, this creator coming into me. This is spirit keeping me alive. This is spirit actually keeping me youthful and keeping me healthy. So when we're aware of that, that's who's speaking to us. But when we're not aware of it, it's our internal wounds that are speaking to us. Okay? Our scared part of ourselves, the part that's been shoved deep inside of ourselves, hiding from, the pain. For many people that come into this culture, there's a lot of pain growing up. And so we hide from it. And as we're hiding from it, we're not in touch with spirit. But really, it's as simple as breathing through it. It's easy to say that when you're on the other side. It's easy to say that once you're there. But before that, it's not. You have to coax a child. When a child's having a fit, we can see this in children. When they're having a fit, you can't reason with them. They're stuck in that crying mode and hiding mode, and you have to let them go through that. And then when they're calmed down and they've done enough of that, you can pick them up and hold them, and then you can breathe into them and you can comfort them. And those become less. Those will become less. That part of having to have the tantrums and go into the negativity will become less. Now, what I've learned from Mino is that a lot of times kids who have those fits, it's energetic, and because just like the wind that comes through here, there's energies that come through here, and that child, they're like little sponges. They pick it up and they react to it. And so you could use an egg, or you could use a tobacco smoke if you were open to it, and blow that on them, and it could help relieve that energy so that they could come into themselves quicker, and that they don't have to carry all those energies throughout their lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah, and some kids are more porous, so their energy is more open, and so they feel a lot more, and so they have to hide away a lot more.
Yeah, I feel like the messages that they receive often is that something's wrong with them for being that way.
Yeah.
What is the PTSD that you refer to us kind of collectively having?
PTSD in our culture is basically when you were born into this world and you were told you are less valuable because you were born a female. And why it affects women, but it affects men too, because now they have to grow up feeling like they're better than, or they have to be better than, and they have a different part in life. So they're separated. And it's all unconscious. It's not like, okay, you're a man, you're a woman. I value you, I don't value. I wished I had a son. It would have been better if you were a boy. It's not always said. It's an energy that's felt. Sometimes it is actually said. But in our culture, it's even, like the jobs. Oh, you're a woman, you should be in the kitchen. Things that people have said. When I was in engineering, one of my teachers used to always say, what are you doing here? You should be in the kitchen. I think you got in the wrong class. The culinary class is next door. And he would laugh at his joke. He thought he was funny. And, my response was to show him that I was smarter than any of those guys in the class. So I worked, to get the highest grade possible. But I wasn't enjoying it. It was a fight. The whole time I was there, I was just like, I had to show these guys this world, but I didn't like this stuff. I didn't feel connected to it. I felt disconnected. And the longer I stayed in there, the more miserable I came, and I had to quit that. So our experience are going to be unique. For me, it was schooling and getting those messages from teachers. I did get it from my parents because they'd say boys were allowed to go out. They were allowed to go to parties when they were young, and we couldn't go out. And if we did, we would be called names. They got angry with us, and they, would say, that we were loose women or, something like that. We were put down. So, we know it. It comes in different forms, but we know it. This is how this culture works and how it has existed up to this point. And feminism has come in to change that, but it's a struggle. And that struggle creates more PTSD. So that's, what I'm referring to about PTSD.
So what was your path to coming to your heart and standing in your power?
So mine started very, very young. I was sexually assaulted when I was 13 years old. And then it happened a few other times throughout my adulthood by, friends, quote unquote friends, supposedly friends. I've had these violations. And when they happened, I was very upset and wanted to blame myself for putting myself in the position. When I told my mother, she said, "You're old enough, you should know better." So even my own mother, not knowing better on her part, had made that comment. And that's kind of what a lot of women in our society are our worst enemies, but they're only doing it because it was done to them. So they were trained to respond this way. Like, we have to be strong and we have to stay out of the way. We have to be quiet. We can't put ourselves in these positions. And so I knew when it happened to me that I wasn't going to allow it to make me crazy or to make me bitter. And from that point forward, I started, every single one of my friends that came to me that had these things happen to them. I was 13, so by the time I was 13, I had friends coming to me, and I would sit with them and I would talk to them about empowering themselves and not to let that get them down. I didn't know what I was doing because I had never read any books. I didn't have any education. I didn't go to any therapy. And it wasn't until I started working with the plants that I came across the calendula. When I first came to calendula and I drank some calendula, I thought, this is a bitter tea. I didn't really resonate with it. But when I infused it into oil and I seen it change into this beautiful color and start to work with it, I found that it was a plant that could help women to open up their power center and to release those traumas that happened to them without them having to relive it. Because when we talk about it, we're putting energy into it and we're re-injuring ourselves. We go back into that PTSD and it starts to hurt us again. Whereas when we're working with the calendula, it's absorbing, it's getting rid of that inflammation on our belly, because most of us carry it in our belly when we've been pain like that. So it'll help pull out that inflammation that you're carrying in your gut. And then it'll actually, what I learned when I was meditating with it is that when you get to a point or a memory in your body, so let's say I get to my belly button and I start feeling extreme pain, then I would reverse it. Instead of going clockwise, I would reverse, and then I would yank it out like I was yanking a weed out. And when I yank it out, I get rid of that seed, that was planted in me from childhood. Get rid of that. And now my belly starts to respond in a positive way. Wow. And I feel strength and it brings confidence. So calendula is the other plant that I use to help restore women that have suffered from any kind of sexual abuse. But, it could be physical abuse too. Because if we get hit as a child by somebody who loves us, it can create great harm in our psyche.
Would you describe these as visions? Do you see the
I do.
energy?
I have visions. Yeah. Since I was a little kid, I used to faint. And when I would faint, I would have visions. So I would have images come to me, and they could be in full color. I can hear voices. And it's not one voice. If it was one voice, I'd go, okay, that's just me. But it's many, many times many voices.
So when people come to you looking for healing, what is the relationship between body, spirit, mind, and where do you start with them?
So to me, this is what I call the Trinity, body, mind, and spirit. But I also call it mother, father, child, because all of us carry those voices, you know, the father, the mother, and the child. The mother and the father, even though some of us are disconnected from them, we still carry their voices in our head. You know, there's a part of us that carries that in us, to the point that the family was dysfunctional, because there's some degree of dysfunction in our culture. Even if it's just a tad bit, there's dysfunction. But many of us, it's huge, the dysfunction. We carry that within ourselves. So the father's dysfunctional voice, the mother's dysfunctional voice, and this child, who we are, who's behind the face that we present to the world, is that child. And it'll get triggered by the people we bring into our lives. And of course, we're going to bring in the people to trigger it, because that's the beauty of creation, is to, be whole, to be our strong selves. And so of course we're going to draw in the teacher who's going to give us the biggest lesson and hurry up the process. So what I did is I created a course called the Medicine Wheel. And so I walk people through this, where they recognize what they didn't get from their father. And so that's the first class. We work on recognizing what we needed. And even if he was the perfect father, there's something that we needed him to be more gentle. We needed this one thing from him this one time. And so what we do is we recreate, and we use a plant. We take a plant from the plant kingdom, and we use that plant to make a tincture or oil, whatever you want. I've had people make food. I've had people infuse it in honey. So really, that the infusion is, we work through a lot of infusions so that you get to a point where you're like, this is what mine's going to be. But we pick 3 plants. We pick the father plant, the mother plant, and the child plant. And each week we work on restructuring and changing that message. And we recreate our father in his perfect form. And even if we didn't have fathers, then we really need that figure in there, because we need that masculine in our lives. We're made up of masculine and feminine energy, so we need the strength of both so that we can feel complete. And then, so once we have the mother and the father and they're both supportive, then we pick a child plant that represents the internal child. And through that plant, we can bring this child out, so that she can evolve. Because that's what mother and father were supposed to do. They were supposed to give us all the tools so that we could evolve, so that we weren't afraid to face life. And so that's what we create with this Trinity blend. And they represent spirit, that blend, the Holy Trinity. And so I tell them, this is your Trinity blend, and this is what you work with, until you get to the point you'll either forget about it, you'll get bored. You've already evolved, so you don't need it anymore. And it should be that way. We shouldn't be dependent on even the plants don't want us to be dependent on them. They'll be here for us anytime we need them, but they don't want us to keep running back to them saying, hey, help me, I don't get this, I need you, I need you. They're like, I've guided you as far as I can take you. Now it's your time to just walk where you want to and enjoy. There's this beautiful jungle here. Enjoy it. There's all these beautiful creatures that are coming here to say hello to you. Just be. So, that's the outcome, is to get to that point.
And when you're consuming the plant, is that a conscious conversation? Or do you just take it in and let it kind of work its magic?
So it is conscious. Many times it's conscious, especially if it's my first time with the plant. It's very conscious. But if it's a plant that I have worked with for years and years, Like today when we were out there, I grabbed a piece of the lemon verbena, and I grabbed a piece of the Tegeris minuta. And both of those, it's automatic. I just grab a piece, put it in my mouth, and it gives me joy to just feel them. It's a vibration, and I can still feel them in my mouth. And sometimes it feels like you're just freshening my breath, but it's not just that. It freshens the whole being. It's rare that I go out into my garden and I don't pick something and put it in my mouth. Most of my plants are edible. I mean, you saw Datoras out there, so you do have to be careful. You can't put everything in your mouth. But most of the things out there, there's a lot of edible flowers, a lot of things that you can eat.
Do you have specific ones that have become particular teachers for you?
Oh, yeah. Mullein, yarrow, nettles, stinging nettles. We work with constantly. It's a big, big friend of mine. Nettles cured me of my my allergies. I had severe allergies when I was a child,
Really?
a teenager. And I haven't had severe allergies. I've had a little bit of allergies. As I get older, liver gets a little more congested, and then I just go to my nettles and it'll clear it for me really quickly. The calendula is really important to me, hibiscus. And really, I've grown a strong connection with the tobacco since I met Mino. Just really powerful connection. I make oils out of the flowers. I make essential flower essence out of the flowers. And then I'll smoke the flowers. I love doing prayers with the flowers. It's just a gentle, gentle smoke. My prayers just, I feel like I go into meditation. I feel like, I go into I get really deeply connected when I use the flowers. I love them. Yeah.
I feel like tobacco is one of those plants that has such a full history of working with humans that it feels like all of that wisdom comes into this current moment of experiencing the plant.
Yeah. This is the really amazing thing about plants, how they'll just show up. I didn't even know I wanted to learn about this plant, and somebody brings it to me. And when I met Mino, there was a lady who brought me, and who knows why she was growing it, but she brought me 3 baby Hopi tobacco plants, heirloom Hopi. She brings them to me and she says, I want to gift these to you. And then I showed them to Mino, and Mino goes, those look like my brother. And I said, oh, well, let's grow them. And when we grew them, he started working with the tobacco plant, because he would do treatments on me, but he didn't have the tobacco, so he's just doing ventosas, or he was working with obsidian or his hands. And, it's nice treatments. It was nice work that he was doing. But when that tobacco grew and he started working with the tobacco, I start having deep, deep visions. When he works on me, I have the jaguar, Otorongo, from the jungle, comes to me. And a couple of years ago, I was reading some native books on plants, and I was reading about the Hopis, that the tobacco that they use, that it came from the people down south. They said in South America, some natives brought them and traded with them their tobacco. And I said, Mino, this is your brother. The natives from here were doing markets. They were trading with the indigenous people from down south.
Wow.
And when that came to me, I was just like, how connected is this world that this plant was brought to me? I was supposed to learn about this plant. There's no doubt in my mind. It confirmed how much I was supposed to learn about tobacco, because when he first came to me and started blowing tobacco on me, I was like, I don't want tobacco blown on me. I've been spending my life, not being around cigarettes. He goes, this isn't cigarettes. I get it now. Yeah, it isn't. It's not the same tobacco. It's very different.
It seems like your work and Mino's work is really deeply complementary.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure him and I were supposed to meet. I don't necessarily believe in soulmates. I believe that we're a soul community, but I really believe that Mino and I were meant to come together. When I was a really young teenager, junior high school, my girlfriends were doing pinups of whoever the movie star was at the time. I didn't care, so I can't even tell you their names. I used to get men from the jungle, pictures of men from the jungle, and rip them out of the National Geographic and pin them up and I would tell him, this is my pinup. These are my loves, you know. And sure enough, you know, somehow I believe in destiny because of that. Because it's in retrospect, looking back, going, I was a weird kid. I wasn't normal back then, and it was because I was already connected to, you know, what my future was going to be. Maybe.
Do you think some of us are just more open to that or able to hear that, or do we all have that capacity and it's a matter of not being socialized out of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the way that I describe it is energetic or spiritual plaque. So when you're born into this world, we're being trained. We go through schools. Our parents have already been trained, so they're training us too. And so if we don't have, you know, hippie parents or, you know, parents who are awake, well, then we'll end up getting the same stuff planted into us. And it's plaque. It's just like having plaque on our teeth, but it's on our, what Mino calls the camino más profundo, the deepest pathway, which is the third eye. And so this is so covered with plaque, we can't see. You know why our spiritual teachers tell us, wake up, practice meditation so that you can open that third eye. But the reason why so many people, they'll do meditation for years and years and years and years and years, and they're like, my third eye still don't open up. It's because there is plaque on that place, and there's only certain plants that can take that plaque off. And, you know, one of those plants is tobacco. Tobacco can take that plaque off. I mean, there's other plants that can do it. And that's what we call our visioning plants, you know, our ceremonial plants. Those plants can do it too. But you really want to be cautious when you're working with those because they have a really strong spirit. And if somebody has manipulated them in any way, you can take on that energy too. And so we always want to be very aware of our sources and our spiritual guides when we're working with those plants. But with the tobacco, it clears that, opens that up.
So did your parents nurture that in you as a kid?
My mother and father, they nurtured the immersion into the plant world and having the connection to nature, but they were really converted by Catholicism. And their belief system, they gave all of their power to their priests. They didn't carry their own personal power. And so I learned that from them, you know, that I could either chase after a guru or somebody who says they, you know, they're the intermediary to the creator. I could follow that path. That's what they taught me. And for whatever reason, it wasn't my path, and I knew it. And I told them, when I was 17 years old, I told them, I'm not going to your church anymore. I'm not following this path. And they thought it was a little phase and that I would come back to it because they had raised me really good in that religion. And they did. They did a really good job. But I could see that it wasn't meant for me. It really limited me being able to embrace a loving relationship that I have with nature. I consider God all of nature. Creator created everything, and I couldn't have a relationship through a priest or, you know, through another authority. And so, you know, it's just my way. It's not everybody's way, it's my way, and I'm happy with it. You know, I feel good. I can be in bed, I can be awake. I feel like I'm always connected, even in pain. Even when, you know, as I'm getting older and these new things that I'm learning about aging, I still feel connected, and I feel like, you know, I can still learn and I can still have my connection to Creator, and that these things can be worked out in the way they're supposed to be worked out. Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about pain because I feel like that's such a trigger for so many people, even people that have pretty solid practices. That when that comes in, it can lead to victimhood. And what is your relationship to it?
Yeah, it's huge. Pain can make us feel shame. Yeah. Like we're doing something wrong. I'm suffering. It's karma.
I deserve
it. It's going to be worse. What I am discovering with pain, I grew up pretty painless till about 5 years ago, when I was 50 years old, no pain in my body. And then when I turned about 50, I started getting these these aches, like arthritic kind of pain. And I would do sting therapy to get, to clear most of that pain with the stingy nettles. It's been able to help me a lot. But what I've found recently is that we've been trained to always try and get rid of the pain. Like it becomes a war. Like, okay, I got to get rid of the pain. I got to make it go away. But what I'm learning right now is to sit with it and meet it, like go into the pain and feel it. Say, why are you pulling me into my body, pain? Why are you here pulling me into my body, pain? And what I'm discovering is that because most of the time I spend my time in my mind, in my emotion, in, doing things for other people, I'm not in my body. And what does pain do? It pulls you into your body. I haven't spent a lot of time in my body, and I don't have much, more time here, in retrospect. 55 years, I blinked my eyes and I'm 55 years old today. That went by fast. And so even if I lived to be 100 years old, well, if I had 50 years, I'd live to 105. Even if I had that much more time left, I already know it's just another blink. It's a little bit of time. And so I feel like my body's just saying, hey, we don't have much time together. Could, just be here with me. Be here with me. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. Just be with me. So I feel like pain is pulling us into the body to be in here, to also work with our body, because a lot of times if you go to the pain, like when I'm working on my, on this pain that I have in my knee, when I put my hands on my knee and I follow the bone structure and the muscle structure, it helps me to shift my posture so that where I'm not sitting upright, where I'm not carrying myself correctly, it creates more pain. And when I work with touching the body and feeling those places in my body, I'm learning to restructure myself so that I have the correct posture, so that I don't allow myself to stay stuck in that position. So pain is a teacher, a very powerful teacher, and really just calling us to be connected, in the last possible time. And I know there's younger and younger people with pain now, because I have a lot of really young people come to me that are like even early 20s or teenagers come to me and tell me they're in physical pain, like they were born with this pain. And what it reminds me of is growing pains. When we were growing up, it hurt. Little kids, when they were growing up, my babies, when they were growing up, they were always, Mom, my bones hurt. And they had shifting in their body. They were stretching. It hurts. It's part of our life. And if we give it a little attention, it doesn't have to get bigger. If we give it the time that it needs, it doesn't have to get bigger. It's talking to us. It's voice. It's the body. It's the body's language. And it's saying, you haven't been listening to me. The stronger it is, you haven't been listening to me. I need your attention.
It's part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of it is that we're not getting nutrients into our body. We're not breathing, and we're not getting nutrients into our body because we're eating a sad diet, the standard American diet. And so we need to grow our own food. If we can, grow our own food, or, get connected to people who have greenhouses and that are growing the food. And that's just part of it, and
is some physical ailment connected to spiritual or emotional ailment?
I see the connection now. I've been assisting Mino since 2008 with the treatments, and consistently people that have grief, it's in their sternum. And when they're able to, he'll tell them, you had congested energy in here, and when that's released, they're able to let go. They're able to grieve, because a lot of people block the tears. They learned that from childhood, not to cry. And so then it's blocked in here. A a lot of this is Chinese medicine too. You know, they'll tell you about each organ is connected to, you know, like kidneys is connected to fear, the liver is connected to anger. And sure enough, when Mino's working on people, that's the issue. They came with tons of anger and their livers are congested. The third eye is always blocked. Always blocked. It's very, very rare that somebody comes here that, you know, this isn't blocked. Women tend to have blockages in their throat. A high percentage of women, not every woman, but a high percentage do. But the third eye, and it starts back here. And so people get headaches and they get pain that radiates around here and up through here. And so when he clears that, the headaches can go away, and a lot of people have visions. Well, they're on the table to have visions come to them. Yeah.
Amazing. It's so cool that the two of you are this powerhouse together.
Yeah, you know, I kind of got stuck for a little while, like focused on the plants, and all I wanted to do was teach, do plant consultations with plants and work with plants and teach the plants. And then in this last year, really, I quit teaching. I cut off a lot of things that I was teaching so that I could focus in on the healing and see how it correlates with the plants. And the more that I put my focus in this place, the stronger I feel the plants are speaking to me now, because it is through clearing this energy that the plants can work now. Whereas before, it's almost like they'll help sustain you, but I don't want you to be sustained. Do you see what I mean? It's like I could keep giving these to you and shifting them as you need to shift, but no. If you could jump start, you know, and you could be done with sustaining yourself and just be in a place where you're moving from this point forward, opening up your own pathway. You know, like, this is what I want to do. I want the energy to do this. And everybody's different, so I can't, you know, say, you know, she wants to be an artist. She wants to do healing work. Well, she needs the energy for that, and she needs that pathway to open for her. She needs these fear that keeps on blocking her and creating blockages on her path because she's afraid and because she doesn't value who she is and she doesn't think she's worthy of it. She blocks it. So let's just get rid of that. And then we can give you, you know, plants. And then the plants and you can work together, you know, instead of you relying on them like a crutch. You don't need it.
And that's such a powerful rewriting of a story that I see people carrying around of like a fundamental brokenness. I love the idea that can just be addressed and then people can bloom.
Yeah. Be told the truth. The truth is that you are a divine creation. You are so divine and you are powerful. And who forgot to tell us this? Come on. Yeah.
Well, that's, you know, that's dangerous to
me. Very dangerous. And put that in enough women's minds, in their hearts, open that back up. Whoa. These structures that exist right now, they're going to crumble. You know, those towers are falling down.
I feel it. It's happening.
Yeah. Well, we want it to happen because, you know, there's beautiful, beautiful babies being born every second of the day. There's so much beauty coming into this world. We want them to blossom. We don't want them to have to, you know, follow that or fall into that dark hole that exists here too. We want that light to be here and to exist and just blossom and get stronger. And when I say women, I'm not excluding men. I'm not saying, you know, this isn't part of the men's world and they don't deserve any of this, because women, even in her name, she carries a man. Even in female, she carries a male. We want the balance to be there. We want men to be part of our life. We love them. We love our sons. We love our fathers. We love that. But we want it to be equal. And we want them to have the blessings too, because they don't respect and honor their own female. They don't honor that femininity that's within themselves. And that's why they try and crush, because it's been crushed in them. They have to go out and crush it in others. And if they didn't have to do that, they would be a different person. There'd be better communication. It'd be nice.
I've had the opportunity recently to get to know intimately some men who are in the later stage of their lives, where I feel like they've kind of transitioned from the warrior into the shepherd.
Yeah.
And I see this relief in them of being able to carry that.
Yeah.
And I feel for them so much, and wish that I'd be able to nurture that spirit in younger men too, to be like, it's okay to put down the sword.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So where would you point people who care about those beautiful young babies and care about the future? Where would you point them to nurture that light and to, head toward healing and connectivity?
Something that's would be easy, I think would be easy. Correct me if you think it's hard. But what I think would be easy is for people to work with these 3 plants that are easy to grow. The calendula, the rose, and the gordo lobo, the mullein. Those 3 plants. Just grow them. And then when they blossom, when they come to fruition, meditate with them, talk to them. And it's okay to, talk to them. It's really actually, after a while, you don't even have to speak out loud. Sometimes you forget and you do speak out loud. But after a while, it's just, you're just telling them, I trust you. I know that there's something significant in you that can help me to find my strength. And the calendula we put on the belly, the mullein we put on the throat, and the rose we put on the heart. All of them can be consumed. Like the flowers, you can take the flower parts. Even the gordo lobo, you can take the leaves and you can put them into a tea. And the tea that we're drinking today has the rose in it, has the calendula in it, has chrysanthemum in it. It doesn't have gordo lobo in it. All of those, they can be made into a tea and just drink if you wanted to. But really touching the body. All of us need cariños. I think cariños is the one thing that has been taken away from us. We don't get gently touched, patted on the head. Oh, great job. You did a great job, Hita. You remember those from people who thought we were amazing? They touch you. And this is what we call cariños. And even our sexuality becomes more powerful when somebody likes to cuddle, likes to just hold hands, touch the face. Those are cariños. And that's why with the plants, they don't judge our bodies. They don't go, ooh, you're not, like her or whatever, They just come into your body and they touch gently, drinking and putting on you. And then you're doing the touch when you're doing the oil work. That's a simple recipe. Simple recipe. Meditation's hard. I could tell people meditate. But that's really, really hard. It's hard because it's hard for us to just let go and not do anything. We feel like we're unworthy or we're worthless if we're not doing. And meditation is basically stop. Quit doing everything you're doing. Just stop for a minute, right? And then, so we stop, and then our mind comes in and starts going, well, remember when, and starts doing all this busy work. And then we start going into a war, like, be quiet, I don't want to see you, leave me, and then it becomes a struggle because you're trying to make everything go away. Well, just forget it. Just let it be. Just go, okay, mind, you're slower than me. The mind is slower than the body, so and the spirit. So just let it run around and do it's what it needs to do, and just keep on going. It's okay, mind. It's okay. You got to do what you got to do. I'm still meditating. If you could do those things, it gets stronger and stronger. And eventually, before you know it, you'll be in a state where you're like, wow, I did that for 20 minutes. I could go longer. Yeah.
I want to ask you a little bit about some of the visionary plants that you'd mentioned. What did you call them?
Ceremonial, visionary.
Yeah. And you'd kind of, warned people to be really intentional about how they welcome those into their spaces. What is the path there?
So I feel like it's really important to recognize that our culture tends to appropriate ceremonies from the traditional indigenous people. And there's some danger in that because the indigenous people have been trained from childhood to guide and to lead, and there's little slight things that they can see and they can take care of, and they can prevent dangerous things from happening. Some of these plants, not intentionally, they're very, very strong, and when you consume them, they become part of you. They're in your blood system. And even the scientists will tell you these alkaloids are in your blood system, and they can test them and they can say you took these, and they'll call them drugs.
You mean like years later? Or?
Not years later. I think some of them last up to 3 months. That's why sometimes you have, visions come back to you or the sense of them coming back. It could be years, depending on if it's embedded in your fat cells and how much fat cells you have. But most of the time they're flushed out within 3 months. But Mino, when he works with people who have consumed them, he can sense them when he's working on the table with them, and he'll ask them, have you worked with the sacred plants, any sacred plants? And then they'll, all plants are sacred, but so let's call them ceremonial plants. So they actually become part of you. You and the plant are married. You are one. And if you have some traumas that aren't resolved, those can be like little demons, like little monsters, and as this plant is trying to heal it, they can fight, and so it can create disharmony in your chemistry in your brain. It can cause a break, and so that's why we want our guides to know what they're doing, because they help you to move that out of your being so that when you go out into the world, you're free of it and you don't have to have an episode of something come up in you, during that time. You don't have to consume the plants. I know this will shock some people, but I've been in ceremony with peyote, and I didn't consume the peyote. I have some plants that sit by my bed, and one night the road man came in my vision, and we did ceremony all night long. When I woke up, I was still buzzing, and I didn't consume any of the plants. And I've done ceremony before, so I know that sensation, how it feels. And so I can tell you that it is possible to work with the plants through the dream time. You have to, really commit to caring for these plants, and then be in prayer and meditation. You have to work with the plants, and it'll happen. It'll come to you.
What is dream time?
Dream time. So the dream time, I like to always warn people that I think a little bit different. Some people may resonate with what I'm saying, and some people may think, really way out there, and that's okay. But basically, I believe the dream time is parallel. It's always running. It's always going alongside what we call reality, me and you right now, right here. But the dream time is happening too. It's just that we're not focused in on it. We don't quiet ourselves like we do through sleep. We quiet ourselves and we go into what we call the REM state, which means we are tapping into that place of ourselves where we can connect with the other world. Some people can do it. It's a gift, and they can do it right now. They can close their eyes. When I was a child, I used to faint, and I would tap into the dream time. Yeah, and it happens throughout my lifetime. The last time it happened is when I met Mino. So it can happen at any time. I don't know when it's going to happen, but that's how I see it. Is like when that happened to me, when I faint, there's no reason for it. I haven't done any drugs. I'm not high. I'm not sick. I just suddenly, this energy comes over me and I lose control of the physical body, and I'm in the other realm. And I will see the other beings. And it can happen through ceremony. It happened when I was at Sundance. I went to Sundance in Pine Ridge, and it happened out there. And it's just being tapped into that other world. And it just crosses over.
Are there some beings that only exist in dream time?
From my understanding right now, I would say yes. There are, there's those beings that can't cross over into this realm right yet. I don't know if that's true. As I say that, I'm like, I don't know if that's true.
Sure. Yeah. I know I'm also asking you to put words on something that's so
Yeah,
beyond language.
yes, it's a language that we don't take the time to talk about and think about. All, many of us, there's some of us that do. We get off on this subject, and there's some of my friends who love to talk about this stuff, and I'm like, yes, let me tell you what I think. I don't know, I think. And that's what it is why not think about these things? Yeah. Why can't we? I was thinking about how one time I saw these kids really were picking on this young lady. She said, I don't believe scientists know how to put dinosaurs together, and I think that they didn't really put them together the right way. And I think they figured it out because they know how our bodies go, and they figure out how things lock and key. But she had a good point. How do they know? Definitely. How do they know they weren't there? And how do they know this couldn't have been? And there's a part missing. There's a missing link. And so you put things together. And everybody was just like putting her down, calling her crazy, just saying really horrible things about her. And I said, why can't she use her mind to go in that direction? Just because it isn't the direction everybody else has been trained to follow and believe, and why can't she question that? I think it's good to question.
It seems like the gift of human consciousness is that we do get to have an imagination.
That's right. And what if by questioning that, what if there's points where you're wrong, but what if there's points where you're right? And if you take that thought process in that direction, you find the cure for mental illness, cancer, anything. So that's why I say humanity wants everybody to think alike, worship the same way, wants to control everybody's mind, thought, the way we eat. And I say, the more different you are, the luckier we are. Yeah, the luckier we are. So if you feel like a weirdo, yay for weirdos, right?
Yeah.
We should be odd. Our thoughts should be different. It's the only way we're going to be able to talk about those little kids, raising them up. They're coming into a generation we have no clue, no idea what they're headed into. So we better be able to expand the way we think.
And your weirdo thoughts give me something to put my weirdo thoughts next to and on top of. And that can be a play space that we can enter together. Yeah.
I like the word weirdo.
Me too. Me too. Well, I'm sorry to make you tell this story twice, but since you mentioned that the last time you'd kind of crossed over was when you met Mino, would you tell the story of how you guys met?
Oh, yeah. So, it was a gathering here in Albuquerque. There's a lady who had a lot of South American friends, and she hosted a gathering, and she invited Mino to come talk about his community. He at the time, he's the ambassador to his community. He's talking about the impact of North Americans and our corporations on their land and their community and their indigenous people. And they invited me to come talk about plants that help clear out the body of toxins. So I was going to talk after Mino. We both, gave our little presentation. Then afterwards there was a nice little social gathering. It was all men except for the host and myself. And I was a little uncomfortable. So when she went outside, they had poured me a glass of wine, and she went outside. I followed her outside. She went outside to smoke. I didn't smoke at the time, so I went outside with my little glass of wine, and she was talking about all kinds of things. And suddenly I had this sensation. I don't know what it was, but I'm going to go to the bathroom, and I stood up, but I fainted, and I fell into a vision. And I saw this beautiful goddess woman, naked from the waist above, a big woman, a goddess-sized woman. and completely naked. And then the bottom half of her was ruins like Machu Picchu. And it could have been any ruins. I wasn't, really, I don't know which one's which. So it was just the bottom half of her was ruins. And she had her arms out to me and she was talking in her indigenous language. And I didn't understand the words, but I felt the words. And I felt like she was telling me, welcome, we have things to teach you. And then all of a sudden I felt the host shaking me and saying, get up, you don't want the men to see you like this. And she thought I was drunk. She thought I was a borracha, and she was trying to, get me up and shame me for falling over like a drunk. And I told her, oh no, I haven't been drinking. Those guys put something in it. They were trying to rape me. And then my own mind tells me, you're not high, you silly. Remember the vision. Don't forget the vision. So I, pick myself up and I'm scraped up because I fell on cement. But I get up and then they're playing their music and everybody wants to dance and stuff. And Mino asked me to dance, and he's really charming. He's cute. I mean, he dances to the music. Like you could see he's feeling it in his body, the way he moves and the smile, and he's just really enjoying it. And so it was really pleasurable to just sit with him and watch him and see the person that he was. But I'm it's late and I'm tired and I'm telling everybody goodbye, and I go to shake everybody's hands, and finally when I get to Mino, I shake his hand, and this electricity, this spark shoots through my body to my heart. And I look at him and he says to me, hasta pronto. And Mino only speaks Spanish at the time. And I mean, he speaks two indigenous languages, but he speaks Spanish. And he says, hasta pronto. And I feel his words in my body. And I go, oh, shit, I'm going to see this guy again sometime. And sure enough, that begins there's more to the story, but I start taking him. I find out he knows about plants. And so I start taking him to all 4 directions and teaching him showing him the places where I gather medicine, where I pick up plants, and he knows about them. And so we become very, very good friends. And he teaches me how to really have a relationship, how to communicate with these plants, because he does. He is talking to him. He's having an exchange with them when he's with them. And I observe it and I learn it. And so he becomes, the most powerful teacher I have ever had access to in this lifetime. And I'm grateful too. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Thank you. There's a lot here, and
I feel like I could spend weeks,
asking
you things.
Yeah. Another time we can break down, particular plants and their, and their constituents or just who they are,
Yeah.
I feel like they're people. And I always tell people, you don't really have to know that many plants. It's just like in life, who are your solid friends? It's really, or even lovers. Like people they want to have like a ton of lovers, and I'm like, it's so hard to keep up, but it's the same with plants. It would be so hard to keep up with them. If you take one plant and get to know that one plant, the intimacy, the power, because those plants have so much more than what you could read in a book about them. Like the things that are unfolding about Gordo Lobo, mullein, it's still happening to this day. I'm still learning from this plant. When I first met the plant as a little kid, and they told us this is the toilet paper plant. It has the soft leaves. And so that's all I knew about it. Toilet paper plant, yay! And as I grew older, then I find out it's good for your lungs. As I get older, I find out it's good for pain. And now the throat chakra. What else is it going to teach us? It has so much more to teach us. Oh, I found out recently, a couple of years ago, I had a friend who came from low elevation, and she was suffering from a headache, and I didn't have any of my plants that I usually have for headaches. And so I gave her the Guardo Lobo. I gave her some root medicine, and it cleared her symptoms, dizziness, headaches, so much that for 2 weeks she didn't suffer at all. And then the next time she came back, she said, be sure and have that ready for me because I don't want to get headaches. The next time she came, she didn't have headaches. Wow. Yeah, so it was powerful in her case, to work through the high altitude sickness.
Feels infinite.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one last thing that I do want to say is that for people, I've been living in New York for the last decade. For people that feel like this is inaccessible, like we are in Albuquerque right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're in an urban area,
Yeah.
and you have
Yeah.
a little jungle in your
Yeah,
front
we
yard.
do. Yeah.
So it's possible.
Yeah. We call it the corazon because that pathway is in the shape of a heart. It took us 3 years to, they can't see our front window. You can't see our front door.
Yeah.
You can't even see what number it is. People always say, I passed your house because I couldn't find the number.
Yeah.
It's love. People say, what do? It's love. I go out there, I sing to my plants. I look at them and I go, you're so beautiful. I love you. And then the little beings that come to visit them, the hummingbirds, the bees, I don't run from them. I say, come on. I've been stung by them. So, and I consider them therapy. So, it's meant to be. But this is possible because of love. And then love teaches me how to make compost tea, how to make really beautiful compost. Something in my heart is open and receptive to go, okay, don't throw that banana peel away. Don't throw those coffee grounds away. Don't throw your eggshells away. No, make them into a compost tea. So little by little, I can hear more. And people will come to me, like I was soaking my feet in Epsom salts. When my knee was bugging me, I soak it in Epsom salt. And the girl was sitting there across from me. She goes, do you use that on your plants? And I go, it's salt. No. And she goes, no, it's not the kind of salt that'll kill your plants. Your plants will actually grow stronger from it. And especially roses, and the rose of Sharon will love it. So, I get taught it isn't always the voice like the plants are talking to me. They speak through the people. They speak through us in our language so that we can actually be, okay, oh, I hear it. I hear you now. That's what you've been trying to teach me. Yeah.
Can just see how they come in more and more. The more that you listen, the more that you ask, the more that they come.
And the more love you feel for them, they're like, oh, well, let me show you something else. Want to see something else? And I'm like, yeah, I do.
I got some tricks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing.
thank you. I love sharing this. This is my love. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the beautiful thing is the more that I learn about it, the more I just want everyone to know, because we all need medicine.
Yeah.
And it's here.
Yeah.
It's here for us.
It is.
So,
Yeah, in abundance.
yeah.
Yeah. Still here. Yeah.
It's so different now. Oh, it's just the way I feel, just the way I feel. Love is overtaking me, and my heart climbs a journey in the night. It's the same when I see you, girl. Waking my heart, breaking my heart, mostly taking it over like the sun shines gloriously through the sky. I know it seems like we just went, oh, but it's so different now. Is it so different now? Is it so different now? Is it so different now? It's just the way I feel. Love has overtaken me. I know you're shivering and you're wet. Oh, would you please lie still? Won't you please lie still? Won't you please lie still? Oh, it's just the way I feel, just the way I feel.
If you want to learn more about Bernadette's world and the healing services that she and Mino offer, you can find her at shabeta.com. SHABETA.com. If you want to find me, listen to more podcasts, check out some weird art, I'd love to hear from you. MauraJames.com. Be well, sweet friends. I'll see you out there.